the What podcast. It's the podcast where we tell you what's nerdy, what's popping with culture, what's giving us all the nostalgic feels, and what's there to geek out about. Past, present, and future. It's all the what's in one place. That's Eric Creech. Kyle Whitley is still on paternity leave, and I'm Ashby Brame.
Yay! We're telling you what's popping with culture. What? No.
Well, okay. You just keep trying to be Kyle, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It's not the same. I can't bring the hype like he does.
Brings his level of enthusiasm.
He has so much enthusiasm.
We miss
My
him.
goodness.
Anyway, we have a very special episode today, so we're going to go ahead and get down to business.
All right, before we do that, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And, of course, rate and review us. 5 stars or 5 meow meow beans only. We're going to try really hard not to Brita this one today. Also, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at What the What Media, all one word. And find us on Twitter at WTW_media. And please share with your friends if you enjoyed today's episode or one of the 90-plus other What the What episodes we have available in the archives.
Now, about that very special episode.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
On the podcast.
Cool.
With us, we have the host of Return to Beacon Hills, a Teen Wolf rewatch podcast.
Yes.
Please welcome to the What the What pod, Will, Calista, and Kate.
Yay.
Hey,
thank you for having us.
We're so excited to have y'all. Like, so stoked.
Excited to be here.
We're so excited to be here. Yeah. So we're the hosts of Return to Beacon Hills, a Teen Wolf rewatch podcast. Every week we are watching and talking about the hit MTV series, one episode at a time. We also interview people who worked on the show so listeners can get all that hot Teen Wolf goss. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RTBH Podcast, as well as on Tumblr and TikTok at Return to Beacon Hills. You can also email us at returntobeaconhills@gmail.com.
Nice.
Very good job. Very good job.
So what we're doing here is a bit of a crossover, if you will. Okay. So Calista and I, we're going to get real fandom-y here for a second. We're going to go back, way back in the time machine.
We're flashing back.
Yes. Anyway, so Calista and I met many moons ago at a Supernatural fan convention.
Yes.
Because why not? And
as one does.
Yes, as one does. We played pool with the stars of Supernatural. You were there for that, right? I didn't know that.
It was Jim Beaver was definitely there. I remember him.
And Aldous Hodge, who's now like practically an Oscar.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I played pool with him. Can't believe it.
Oh my god, jealous.
Anywho, did I never tell you guys that story? I feel like I texted Calista at some point and was like, hey, I know I just met you and like we exchanged something. Was it like a photo op or something?
Yeah, I think it was a photo op, yeah.
Yes. I was like, but you need to get to the hotel bar right now. It's 2 a.m., but if you're awake, like the entire cast just walked into the hotel bar and we're playing pool with them. So get here.
It was really amazing, and you're a saint.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like a real bro. That was the move.
Yeah, it was Jim Beaver, Misha Collins, Aldous Hodge. I think Alona Tall was with them. I mean, it was basically everyone who was on the show at that point except Jensen and Jared.
Right.
So, anyway, so that's how Calista and I met. And we haven't met IRL since then, but we've stayed friends on social. And so she contacted me like a few months ago, and she said, hey, I know that you're a huge Teen Wolf fan, which I am, even though I don't talk about it a lot on my pod because Kyle and Eric don't watch Teen Wolf, but I'm a huge fan.
But I will.
And she said, we're doing a Teen Wolf rewatch, and we're doing a podcast about it, and we'd love you to be on an episode, and if there's something that like we could be on your podcast about, that would be awesome. And so I will be guest starring on your podcast very soon in the coming weeks. And in conversation about what we could talk about on our podcast, I asked what you guys were big fans of. And Calista said, well, you know, Will, who you guys all have sort of an LA background. You've all worked at one time and lived in LA. And she said, well, Will, who also worked on the set of Teen Wolf, ended up working for one season on Community. Do you guys watch Community? And I was like, do we?
And Ashley was like, no, I don't. But
no. I said, that is literally Eric's favorite show, and we've never been able to do an episode about it because Kyle and I refuse to watch it.
Missing
Why? You're missing
I don't
out.
know.
It's
I
You
don't
so
know.
really
good.
are missing out. It's so good.
Very,
It seems
very good.
time consuming, which is a really poor excuse. Because I recently just rewatched the entirety of Teen Wolf, so like I clearly have the time.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, I had a friend, a guy I coach with. He's never seen Community, so we got together like every Sunday for 6 months since like last September, October. We just finished the run of Community, so it does take a little while. We watch 2 or 3 episodes a night every week. But right now, it's only 6 seasons. There's no movie, okay? Just 6 seasons.
Yet.
You have to commit.
Yeah.
Okay? There is no movie
Holding out.
yet.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I can do that.
yeah, I
can
mean,
do
it's
that.
just, but it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
In past episodes, like we would have like these ranking episodes, like name your favorite Christmas TV episode, and of course, I go to regional holiday music from Community, where I literally sat there for 20 minutes and sang all the songs. I mean, just I sang Baby Boomer Santa, I sang Jehovah's Secret Witness. I mean, just sang them all. Why is the piano playing that song? Just whatever. I did it all. Love Mr. Rad. He killed the previous Glee Club, but whatever. So like, just really love this show. I love how smart it is. I love that it's not your typical sitcom where in the beginning it kind of sets you up to believe, hey, this is guy meets girl and they're going to fall in love. No, it turns that on its head really soon. I can't wait to ask about that, by the way. But just love the show, and just when Ashby had called, I don't know if you called or if you texted.
I texted and I said, Eric, are you sitting down?
Yes, that's literally like, what are you doing? And I'm
I
like,
love that.
No, you go sit down. And she's like, well, long story short, I'm going to be doing a podcast with Return to Beacon Hills. I don't know if that was the name y'all had at the time.
I just said
a Teen Wolf.
Yeah, Teen Wolf fan friends.
But one of their people worked on Community, and they're willing to do a Community episode. And yes, I freaked out a little bit. It was really awesome. And I've been looking forward to this day. Like, this is better than my birthday this year. This is going to be like one of my highlights of the year. So excited. And I'm really glad that y'all are going to be joining us to talk about this, because it's been a long time coming for me. Like, one of the whole point of us doing a podcast is so I can talk about some of my favorite things. And Community is definitely one of my favorite things. So.
Isn't that why we all started podcasts? Just
Exactly.
talk about our favorite things.
Exactly.
Well, this is great, and I certainly don't feel pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Don't
Better
be
than
the
birthday.
AT&T of people.
Okay.
Don't feel
Don't be
pressure.
a pizza burn on the roof of the world's mouth. I mean,
Don't
don't be the opposite of Batman. Don't Brita this one. Okay.
Yeah, don't feel pressure to make this the best day of Eric's life or anything.
No pressure at all.
Oh my goodness. So all that to say, on today's episode, listeners, we are taking a
Deep dive.
into one of Eric's favorite shows of all time, Community. So this is your spoiler warning. We recommend that you get streets ahead
Yes.
and watch the show before you listen.
If you don't know what
wanna
that
be
means,
spoiled.
you're already streets behind.
I don't know what that means.
It's like slang.
It was just in the script, so I read it. Okay, so if you have listened to this point, then you clearly know that this is a 4 to 5 or 1 to 4 ratio of people who are super into this show and know everything about it, and then me, who have seen 8 to 10 episodes.
But they were
max.
great episodes. Just
And
saying.
also randomly, so I don't know what season those episodes were.
We'll tell
I
you.
don't know the plot of that season.
You don't need to know.
I've just seen super random. I've seen one of the paintball episodes. I've seen something about pillow forts.
Yes.
Something
Boykin
about
Burns.
the one where the dean gets like kidnapped or something.
I love Dean Pelton. We better
Yes.
talk about
He's a regular Joe on the weekends, really.
Ooh, the magic trampoline one.
Oh.
Yes.
That's all I can
Oh my
remember.
god! Josh was racist. Oh my god!
Okay, so we normally kick off with a summary of what we're about to talk about, whether it's a movie or a TV show. So I'm going to try to give a summary of Community based on what I know about it. And then we're going to have Eric give an actual summary.
We'll see.
Maybe. So I think that Community is a show about a group of people who are basically all frenemies who have a study group together at a local community college and then get into shenanigans.
That's actually pretty close.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong
I mean,
for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
so
it. That's all I've got.
So I watched Community for the first time. I think it was like on iTunes as a free episode with the pilot, which is the first place I saw it, and just fell in love immediately. So Jeff Winger, played by the wonderful Joel McHale, is a lawyer, and he has been disbarred because he said he had a bachelor's degree from Columbia, but now he needs one from America. Okay?
That's right. Yeah.
So he goes to his old friend, played by. Oh my goodness!
Oliver.
John Oliver.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't remember his character name.
I'm just blanking now because of course I am. But he goes to his friend played by John Oliver, who works at a local community college. He wants to get all the test answers. Wants to go ahead and coast through 4 years of undergrad, get that law degree from America, so he can get back into the law firm. And he sees this girl named Britta, played by Jillian Jacobs, and he just has a crush on her. He has a little bit of hey, what's up, girl? And wants to just, hang out with her, whatever. And she's studying for Spanish, and he's like, well, I have a Spanish study group. And he lies his way through, like, I'm a tutor. I'm taking it as an easy credit. And he blurts out a bunch of Spanish words that she doesn't understand because she needs tutoring, so of course she doesn't understand. And so he thinks that's just the easy way to get with Britta. And she invites Abed, who, wonderful, Danny Pudi, wonderful.
Oh my God, so
who then invites other people from the class, Annie, Shirley, Pierce, and Troy. And turns out they realize that Jeff is not a tutor, but they're willing to work together to try to get through Spanish and get through their Spanish class, who the professor or the teacher, he's not a professor, they make a point of that later in the season, played by Dr. Ken Jeong, who is wonderful as Chang. And that's how their group forms. And then as the time goes on, they get into some shenanigans because Greendale is a weird, magical, lovely place where wonderful things happen, like playing pool in shorts. Did y'all play pool in shorts when y'all were at your convention? Because you should have, because real men and women play pool in shorts. I want you to know that.
Because it is a physical sport, and you should dress accordingly.
Accordingly, exactly. And then as the seasons go on, they take anthropology together. They take biology together. Jeff and Pierce almost don't take that class together because they end up getting kicked out or not into the class. And they realize the table's magic. They just try to destroy the table. Anyway, they take history together. We're not going to talk about that year. Jeff comes back as a teacher. I mean, just really good stuff. And, it's more about the relationships built amongst the classmates, their little family along the way. It's really sweet at the core of the show. So that's my premise of Community without just talking about every single episode in detail, because this podcast would last forever if I did that. Correct. So I want to go ahead and pave the way here. Will, you actually worked on season 1 of Community.
That's right.
If you want to just talk about your tie into that show and, I don't know, just give a brief description of what you did and how, all the stuff, yes.
I was an office PA on the first season of Community. I got hired on to do the pilot. My then writing partner's girlfriend was the producer's assistant to, I think, Patrick Kinlan, who was one of the producers on the show. And so she got me on to the pilot, and I did the pilot, and it was a lot of fun. And then a couple months later, when they got the pickup, I got hired on to be an office PA. And so I worked with a couple of the cool guys, Dan Margolis and Tim Kolesk. We were the office PAs for that season on the show. And we were on the Paramount lot. It was a lot of fun, and it was just great. It was fantastic. So
nice.
Awesome. Working in TV is very stressful. It is awful at times, but always awesome at the same time. I don't know really how to describe it. Some people it might not be awesome for, but for me, my experience was it was always great. It was a lot of fun. So
that's really awesome. So
making a face because I was a terrible PA. I was just really, really bad at it.
I think I would be awful at it too. I think I have no experience in Los Angeles, Hollywood, television writing, any of that, because I've never been to California. But I can imagine me, like, just being on a set somewhere, and I would just fanboy, like, every 5 seconds. I would not last a day. I get overly excited about everything. So
for me, there wasn't, like, a lot of fanboying going on just because, like, I didn't know any of these actors. Because, like, except for Chevy Chase and Joel,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joe McHale.
Joe McHale.
Yeah.
Don't know why I was blanking on that. They were like the names of
Right.
that series at that time. Now, granted, everybody else is now a name, but
yeah,
at the
absolutely.
time they were like the names. And I didn't really care about Chevy Chase too much, so that wasn't a thing. And I knew Joel McHale from just Talk Soup,
Yes.
you know, and so there really wasn't like a lot of fanboying for me, at least, going on. It wasn't like I was working on something where it's like, oh my God, I know all of these people. I need to keep myself in check the whole time. It was just like, nope, these are just
Natalie Portman's not 2 feet away from you.
okay. That's honest, but you know, whatever. No, that never happened. But yeah, so it was just a lot of fun. It was awesome. A great time.
That's fantastic. So next, here in our little script here, we're talking about our favorite episodes, and there's so many.
There's so
many.
They
have over 100 episodes, and I would say a good 3/4 of them are like at any point could be one of your favorites. Like there's not a lot of low quality episodes in this run. Would any of y'all like to volunteer to go first and talk about your favorite episode and why?
I'll go. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
My favorite episode is Remedial Chaos Theory.
Nice. Season 3.
So great. I feel like it is a perfect example of Community balancing being hilarious and also being a little bit touching and sweet. It's also a great example of Community subverting expectations, which was possibly its greatest strength as a show.
Yes.
And it also introduced sort of the alternate timeline convention that ended up being kind of a runner on the show and really only became funnier as it went on with the Darkest Timeline episode and that sort of thing. So I love that episode. It's hilarious. And I never watched the scene where they finally let Britta sing Roxanne without smiling.
Yes.
It's impossible to watch that scene without smiling. If you can watch it without smiling, you might be a sociopath.
Yeah, you might be dead inside.
You might be dead inside.
Yes.
It's great. So that's my favorite episode. And it was kind of like when I saw that question, I was like scrolling through the episodes trying to figure out, and I was thinking this is going to be so hard because as you said, there aren't a lot of duds in the run of Community. There were so many episodes that I scrolled by and I was like, that's a perfectly respectable answer. That's a perfectly respectable answer. And then I got to Remedial Chaos Theory and I was like, oh, no, it's that one.
Absolutely.
Because of all the things that I mentioned. But there really aren't a lot of bad answers to that question.
No, there's not. Unless you pick something from season 4.
Wait, there was a season 4?
Exactly. Ghastly Cure, sorry. Calista, how about you go next, if you don't mind?
Okay, sure. So I also really loved Remedial Chaos Theory, and I really love the one that I know Will's going to pick, but mine was Introduction to Teaching because of the whole storyline with Abed taking a Nick Cage good or bad class. Oh my God.
I'm a cat.
What? I'm a sexy cat.
Sexy cat.
I would have given anything to be able to take a Nick Cage good or bad class in college. Like, oh my God. That's, ugh.
We've actually discussed this topic like in all seriousness before.
I am a hardcore Cage fan. And I don't know if he's good or bad, but I am there for all of it.
He always be caging.
I always be caging.
Yeah.
ABC always be caging.
I really like how Shirley kind of puts it. He's, where she's like, if I appeared in over 75 films, I might too accidentally win an Oscar. I mean,
yeah. And that's such a good example of like a line that's kind of a throwaway line and is still gold.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, and when Danny Pudi breaks out in his Nick Cage impersonation, I was just, oh my God, he nailed it. He's just so spot on.
I really think Danny Pudi's just underrated as an actor. I mean, he's so good. And it comes back to the heart of that episode too, where Shirley and Abed are having that conversation, and Shirley's like, well, I don't know if he's Jesus, but he clearly works in mysterious ways. Oh, such a good episode. Oh my goodness.
It's a great episode.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting that. That's so good. Wow. All A- are made up. Just
Oh my God. And the Hellraiser reference from Shirley
is
such a great, and then like that's such a good scene because it's subverting expectations. It's not something you would expect Shirley to say. And then when they cut to Abed and he has this look of just like euphoria, and it's so sweet in a way where you're like, surely just in like 2 sentences just restored Abed's faith in humanity. And it's such a short little scene. It just is like, it's exceptional.
We also have a reference to Pinhead in space, which is just awesome.
Which is excellent, yeah.
Yes, fantastic. Will, what's your favorite episode?
My favorite episode is Modern Warfare from season 1. It's just a fantastic episode. Like, basically all episodes of the show are really, really good. And I think that really comes down to Dan Harmon and the writers.
Yes.
Like, because I remember when I was working on the show, the floor we were on in our building was just a giant square. And so if you had to go somewhere, you just had to walk around this square, like to get to the exit or whatever. And you would have to walk by. We didn't have to, because at that time I knew
he did.
I did. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a writer's assistant. I was trying. So anytime I could accidentally walk by the writer's room, I would, even if it took me out of my way and all that. But the writers, when you go by, they had like a long writer's table, and they each had a computer monitor. And Sona Panos, who was the writer assistant, would be at this little desk at the end, and she was on the actual computer, and everybody was seeing what she was typing. And they were always working so hard on the scripts, just always, and I remember like they would spend hours and hours and hours on one scene or one line just to be like, what is the absolute best way to tell the story of this episode, of this scene, of this little moment. And like they would have, like basically every writer's room, just whiteboards everywhere and filled out, and they'd have Dan Harmon's famous story circle up there for each episode, and like how they were breaking it down and figuring it out. And I don't want to say it was like a formula, but it was kind of a formula, but it was just, they kind of nailed how to tell a story, but it was just like, knowing how to do something and then the doing are 2 totally different things, but they just tried so hard on every single episode to make them good. And, so, I mean, the show is just like Teen Wolf. It has no right to be that good. Like, cause I feel like when people start watching Community, like, oh, it's just a sitcom. Oh, it's just a show about werewolves and vampires or something, but then you watch it and you're like, oh my God, like what? Like, how is this just so good? And like you were saying with the pilot, I feel like they kind of trick you with the pilot, very similar to, and I think Kate can back me up, the first season of Fringe.
Yes.
They trick you into thinking, oh, it's X-Files. And then they're like, oh, is it though?
X-Files light.
It's X-Files light. And then it becomes something all its own. And I feel like with the Community pilot, that's what happened. We're like, oh, you think you know what you're getting. And then they just spun it off into pure gold. But I'm sorry, this is very long-winded.
No, go ahead. Take your time.
Modern Warfare is fantastic. It was a lot of fun to work on. Justin Lin, super nice guy, very, very nice, would talk to people all the time. And then, of course, he goes and just revitalizes the Fast and Furious franchise and all that. It's just like, what is happening here?
$1 franchise.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like he took Community so seriously because he did a couple episodes and they're all fantastic. And but the reason I chose Modern Warfare was because the bit at the end when Jeff comes diving in super slow motion out of the study room. Fantastic shot. I did the test for that shot.
Oh,
we got a call one day in the office and they're like, hey, someone needs to go down and help them test like the Phantom camera, which is a digital camera that shoots like thousands and thousands of frames per second. And I think Sergio or Sean or someone was just like, Will, go do that. And I was like, okay. And so I went down there and they filmed me for a little while, just running and diving, not onto mats, unfortunately. So I really messed up my shoulder. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 takes that Rhonda Robinson, our awesome prop master, came in and was like, oh my God, she drug in a mat for me. And they're like, oh, well, we're done. It's like, oh, well, thank God, I guess. But so that's like my abiding memory of that particular episode. And it was a lot of fun. And actually, if y'all want, I will send y'all that footage.
Yes.
Please.
Of me crashing into the floor like a fool multiple times. And you'll also see Rhonda doing the same and firing paintballs. They shot her a couple of different times at different frame rates, and
I feel like you're really holding up for me what I imagine being a PA in Hollywood is like, because it's like on any given day you come into work and they're like, hey, one of the actors needs something, or like, hey, will you just like bodily fling yourself through this doorway multiple times? Like,
there is a lot of that, but I'll be honest, 99% of the job is go get coffee, or I need 1 billion copies of this, please.
Okay.
That's really it. You vacillate back and forth.
Or it's like perimeter.
Yeah.
Or that.
Duty.
Or
that
you
was our big
yeah.
thing as like a set PA is like stand here and make sure no one goes by.
That's right.
And that's super fun to do at 4 a.m. On Hollywood Boulevard whenever there's a bunch of drunk people going by and you're like, sorry, you can't pass. And they're like, well, I want to, and you don't actually have any authority.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's
like
lockdowns.
I'm 5'1", but bow to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's lockdowns. Lockdowns are tough because it's like you have no authority,
right?
But the producer is like, well, just stop them, and it's like,
no.
Wait, how? What?
Yeah, how? I can't physically lay hands on them because I will get murdered.
You're right.
Can we say what show this was?
We don't work in LA, Kate.
Yes, sure. Screw it. So this was the pilot of Lucifer. And
we were there for the but there's like a bus crash, which was really that's a blow up or something. I can't actually remember.
It was I think it was just a crash. I don't think there's an explosion.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that.
It was so cool. That was really cool because we were right there when they filmed that.
But less cool. And someone, I think they did have to call the cops at one point because like someone came over and like shoved another PA into a car. Yeah. Not like I keep bumping my mic. Not like pulling them into a car, but like just like pushing them up against a car to try to get past them. And this isn't like they had all the correct permits and everything. This isn't we're not like, oh my god, this was illegal. It's just the point that we're trying to make is that people don't like to listen to you even when you do have permits and everything to be there. And that was difficult because it is such a busy thoroughfare normally. This was Hollywood Boulevard. Right. But I mean, the upside to it is we got to see this like really cool scene being filmed on Hollywood Boulevard at night.
Did you get to lay eyes on Lucifer himself?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he was there.
Cool. I didn't know if he was in that scene. But I literally have never seen Lucifer, but only because of Tumblr. I know how thirsty that Phantom is. That
is a thirsty,
so hot.
Yeah. But I honestly like. It was kind of like what Will was saying. I had no idea who he was, and we weren't like close to him either. It was more like he's filming like getting into a car and driving, which I guess is something because not every time you see a character from a slight different distance get into a car and drive off is it actually them. So that there's that. But yeah, and then it was interesting because for a while, it was on our IMDb pages, and we would get on our IMDb pages to add something we'd worked on, right? Because we're not working most of the time on like big name production, so you have to add your own credits and make sure that like your page looks like you've been working. And we'd get on there and it would say Lucifer TV movie. Mm-hmm. And we were like, oh man, does that mean it's not going forward? Because that means that it's not going to look that cool on our IMDb page if it's not even a series. And it was because there was so much space in between them filming the pilot and it getting greenlit to go to series. But finally it did and ended up having a whole bunch of seasons. And so that was really cool for us because, I mean, it sucked that we only got to work on the pilot. But it, once it went forward, it was like, oh, now this looks good. If this had just been like they only ever aired the pilot and called it like a TV movie, it wouldn't have been that cool.
Yeah.
My only experience with Lucifer was his crossover in Crisis on Infinite Earths last year with the Arrowverse.
Okay.
Oh, is Lucifer a DC property?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he crossed over, like he was on Earth 666, ironically. And
yes. He and Constantine ran into one another, and there
Constantine had to do something to go to hell to get Oliver Queen. It was, I don't know, it was really good. But I was like really taken with his appearance. He did a really good job.
It was
nice. Okay.
So. Also,
I thought it was just a show. About Satan or something. I don't know.
Could you define tension?
But keep it family friendly.
Have you ever seen John Constantine do anything in the?
I actually have not.
Oh,
So I don't-
oh,
Matt
okay.
Smith?
Okay.
Is that
Matt,
his name?
I think it's Matt. No.
No, Matt Smith's the Doctor Who.
He's the Doctor. Who plays John Constantine? Oh my god.
Keanu Reeves.
Hey,
He's the Constantine of my heart.
Yeah. Oh.
Along with Nick
No,
Cage, I'm a
no.
big
She's
Keanu
a big
Reeves fan.
Keanu stan.
No, Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. Okay, so Matt Ryan plays Constantine.
Not the NFL football player.
And his actual Constantine show got canceled, and so they shuffled him into Legends of Tomorrow
And Arrow season 4.
and Arrow season 4,
Oh.
and he plays Constantine to the comic
He's
canon.
Perfect.
So he's
Oh.
bisexual, pansexual, poly,
Yeah.
all the
something.
things.
All the things.
And so he runs into Lucifer, and they're kind of like doing this, like, haven't seen
Doing
you
this
in a
little dance
while.
here. Yeah.
What's up?
Good stuff.
And it's amazing. It's hilarious.
Someone put this on my agenda for next week, please.
Yeah. Note to self.
Make a note to self.
I am interested in that kind of stuff, but then I'm like, everything on the CW was like, seemed to cross over with each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
Everything
even know where to
crossovers now.
start.
Correct.
Like, how do I
Like,
dive
my
into
advice
this?
to you would be
Right.
start with Arrow. Like, I didn't really get into Flash. I did watch the crossover episodes with Flash, but I would just start with Arrow and see if that's your cup of tea. And then when they do the Flash
Right.
crossovers, maybe try an episode or two. But
Right.
Arrow's the baby. That's where it started. For me, that's kind of where it ended because I haven't picked up on any of the other crossovers.
It is
Supergirl.
super enmeshed, and so it is kind of unfortunate that, like, let's say by the time you get to the last two crises they did where Tyler Hoechlin is Superman and you might actually want to watch it, well, now you have multiple seasons of multiple shows that you might need to catch up on to understand
Right.
what's happening. And so that
Right.
is a little unfortunate.
Yes.
But it is nice that, like, what they were doing was really unprecedented with the amount of crossovers, like the amount of work that went into the production of those. Also,
Hey, that's fascinating from a writing perspective.
yes.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Yes.
we just need like a remedial Arrowverse
Yes.
course.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's also interesting to listen to the actors talk about the production schedule for crossovers because as cool as they are to watch, they are awful to
Yes.
shoot.
Oh, I
Oh,
bet.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, a guy that all three of us know, Eric Wallace, who was a writer on Teen Wolf, is
Eric
the showrunner
Wallace.
of Flash. And
Mhm.
so, like, I texted with him in the past, and he's like, "Oh, we're trying to plan the crossovers." And apparently, they just got like a board. It's
Yeah.
just like, here are the crossovers, here are the dates, and it's just like a giant mess of trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to do it and all that. So, yeah.
I can imagine, like, even just with two shows, when it was just Arrow and Flash, like, that would have been kind of hard to do. But now you're crossing over with Legends of Tomorrow, you're crossing over with Supergirl, you're doing it with Batwoman, you're doing it with the new Superman and Lois, Black Lightning. Lucifer apparently is now in the running.
Apparently.
I mean, they cross the Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, literally crossover
Yes.
with like anything
It
you
was
could think
bananas.
of, including the current DC extended
Yeah.
universe, movie universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including
Wow.
the
That Flash.
1989
Yeah.
Batman movie,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
old Birds of Prey show that was
Right.
like 2002. Like they had
Oh
like
my God.
little
Yes.
nods to
Yeah.
everything.
So it wasn't just
That's
Lucifer.
awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of people that had like 5-second scenes. So, like,
so many.
Tom Welling,
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy,
Smallville. Yeah.
Um,
Oh my God. Yes.
Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Mhm.
had
John
a
Wesley
15-second.
Shipp is
Yes,
the Flash
yes.
as well. A different
It
version
was-
of the Flash, but he was from
Yep.
the Flash show. And
Flash
all that,
99,
Yes.
or Flash 91. I don't know.
Something
It
like
was-
that, yeah.
It was quite the experience.
Yes. And even as
Yeah.
someone who like didn't experience all of those things, like when they were happening, I still recognize like
Yeah.
how awesome it was. They were to pull in so many different
Yeah.
things in just this one TV thing. I mean, just so cool. But this is a community
that is
episode.
pretty
So,
amazing.
I mean,
Well, I was about to say, now I wish that...
now we're an Arrow episode. Look at it. We're doing another crossover here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish Teen Wolf had a crossover because we could have had like the Jackass edition
Yeah.
or
Yes.
something where it's
Uh-huh.
just like Scott and Styles like just jumping out of windows
Yes.
or something, and Derek in the
100%.
background just shaking his head. To
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So, complete honesty, getting us back on track. Complete honesty. I asked you three to go first because I needed to narrow my list down. Because, I'm gonna give some shout outs to some episodes that are not I'm not picking as my favorite today, but they very well could be my favorites like tomorrow or 2 days from
Understandable.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Just a couple, Spanish 101, which is the second episode, just for Ken Jong's I am a Spanish genius. My nickname is El Tigre. I mean, I actually quote that in classes. That episode's great.
Eric's a teacher in.
Oh yeah, I'm a physical education teacher.
Just so you know.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I love the art of discourse and contemporary American poetry. That episode where Abed is, he's always wanted to be in a mafia movie. And then
It's the mafia episode, yeah.
Yep. Art of discourse is where Jeff and Britta are being made fun of by the high school kids getting their credits at the community college. And,
Right.
so Anthropology 101, just for the image of Betty White beating the crap out of Joel McHale.
Yes.
And then the end scene where Abed and Troy are redoing their Spanish rap to fit it into the Anthropology rap, and then they break into singing Africa by Toto. Wonderful.
Which is one of Will's favorite songs, by the way. I feel like I should jump in.
If you had to put a gun to my head,
it's like
it might be my favorite song.
Africa is in my top 5 of
song.
ever. Yes. Messianic Myths and Ancient Peoples, where Abed makes a film about Jesus and, about God following around him with his camera, but then he's being filmed by God's camera and blah, 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 and the title of the film is Abed. And Mixology Certifications, great episode. Cooperative Calligraphy. We mentioned Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Critical Film Studies, the Pulp Fiction episode, which is actually a My Dinner with Andre episode. The season 2 finale, Fistful of Paintballs for a Few Paintballs More, where you have the Western and the Star Wars.
The spaghetti Western episodes.
Yep, so wonderful. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm just listing all the episodes.
Just open up IMDb and just read.
Yeah, just
regional holiday music I mentioned earlier. Pillows and Blankets is great.
We made them just pick one.
Yeah, I know. And I'm getting to my one.
Are you?
This is context. He's giving us context.
These are all the ones that wasn't my favorite here.
These are the honorable mentions.
Cooperative polygraphy and geothermal escapism. Analysis of court-based networking, just for the bear down for midterms. App development and condiments for Meow Meow Beans. Modern espionage and wedding videography when Garrett gets married, and they bring in Keith David to play Elroy, who talks about his addiction to encouraging white people. From 2006 to 2009, I was addicted to encouraging white people. just in all seriousness, all those didn't make it. If I had to pick one to just watch forever and ever, over and over and over.
Okay.
Basic Lupine Urology, Season 3. This is the Law and Order spoof episode.
Oh, I've seen this one.
I've made you watch this one, yes.
It was spot on.
Yeah.
Like, spot on.
So
they nailed it.
Even the title is a shout out to Dick Wolf. Basic lupine being like werewolf, wolf, urology, Dick. So Dick Wolf. What? And I felt like they just, as someone who grew up loving Law and Order SVU still, and they nailed down like how that episode flows. Where they have, you got Troy and Abed who just seamlessly go into the role of cops. Shirley, who's immediately the captain of, I need you to canvass for witness. So we got 24 hours to this, this trail runs gold. And it's been a long 15 years. I mean, she just goes into it. Troy and Abed, who are just perfect at, interviewing people. Troy with a Spider-Man tie. Little shout out to his, his wanting to be cast as Spider-Man. At the Donald Glover, the rumors with him trying to be cast as Spider-Man.
Which would have been amazing, by the way.
Which would have been fantastic, absolutely. Their interrogation of Starburns. Look, my partner's a bad cop. I'm a good cop. You can trust me. Wait, I'm not falling for that. And you don't have to keep me here because you're not cops. Shirley knocks on the window or the fish tank. He's right. You're not cops. Jeff and Annie, being the lawyers and interrogating Todd. I mean, just, oh my God. Where do I start? It's just, and then the surprise ending with Starburns blowing up in his meth lab.
So good.
Oh,
it is incredible. It is one of my, it's just one of my favorite episodes. It's my favorite today. It might not be tomorrow. It might be in my top 20 tomorrow. Who knows? But today, Basic Lupine Urology is my favorite. So
it's a good pick.
Nice.
Good
That's a
pick.
good answer, yeah.
Good pick, sir.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you on a 10-minute rabbit hole to get there.
Yes, you did.
But yes, I did. You're right. So,
No complaints. I'm here for it.
So
No notes.
No, yes. So Will, you worked on season 1 as we talked about earlier. I do have a few questions I want to ask specifically for you. Let's start with Dan Harmon. You mentioned earlier, what it's like to work for him. You mentioned, you help me out here, the circle, his circle.
Yeah, the story circle.
The story circle. Can you go into some detail about what it was like to work for him and work under that
model?
That model, yes, thank you.
I didn't work with him very closely. I was just
Okay.
one of the office PAs. So the office we sat in was like on the opposite side of the floor to the writers.
Gotcha.
I honestly didn't have too many interactions with him.
Okay.
Because they were always working. Like
which makes sense.
It felt like they were always working, especially because every Monday we would have a read through of the newest script that was going to be shooting next. They were never on time. Like, because we would have it at lunchtime, and like the ADs will have planned it, so it's like we've got 45 minutes to do it, or half an hour to do this. So it's like everybody's gonna walk in, sit down with their food, open the script, read, 40 pages, whatever it is, get up and go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Never on time. Like we were like waiting because the copier, with this industrial copier in the kitchen, and we were just waiting. Like we had all the paper ready, and the moment the script came, like Sona or someone would run in and give it to us, and we'd slap it in the machine and hit like 1,000 and just start going because they were waiting for us, that type of thing. And it was never on time. And that was just because Dan was rewriting it like constantly. Like he and the writers were always on. And that's why the show is so good. Like they just went down every single conceivable story avenue possible.
All the timelines,
trying to be like, is this the best version of this line, of this scene, of this act, of this episode? And, they ran themselves into the ground. And, it's no secret to say that Dan had a drinking problem at this time, and it was rough, but he just worked so hard, all the time. And it was like, there were times like, because sometimes we hated it, but sometimes it would happen because like you have 12 hours to shoot your day's worth of material. It doesn't take 12 hours. It takes 13, 14, 15 hours. So what happens is you shoot however long it takes. And then when you stop, you have to start 12 hours later because you have 12 hours of turnaround. So
the actors have 12
hours. The actors have 12 hours of turnaround. Let me rephrase.
Above the line people have it.
Above the line, they've got 12 hours of turnaround. The below the lines have however much time you get. That's just the way it is. So what would happen is eventually, as would always happen, by the end of the week or the end of the schedule of shooting an episode, you're probably on nights, even if like all these scenes are daytime. But why are we starting at midnight? It's like, well, because it took X number of hours the previous day and you can't start until 12 hours after that type of thing. And so there would be days when I would be, and one of the office PAs, like there were 3 office PAs. One would be the night PA if we were shooting overnight or whatever. And then the other 2 would be the day PAs. And so like, if it was your turn to be the night PA, that means you show up at call time and you leave at wrap, and you're just sitting in the office waiting to do call sheets and anything like that. Anything anybody needs. And there'd be times when I'd be like locking up the office like at 4 a.m, and I would walk around to the writer's room just because I always wanted to see the awesome that was happening. And Dan would just be in his office, like all the lights off, but like the glow of the computer on his face. And he's just typing. He's just working, working on what scenes that had to be shot the next day or whatever the next outline or next script was. And he was a fine guy. He drove himself and the other writers to exhaustion, just trying to make it as good as possible.
I do have a question, and you might not be able to answer it because I know you were only on season 1, and sometimes this can change as the show grows. But you talk about how tight the writing is. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like Community was the kind of show where the actors were being asked to read the script as it was because the writing was tight, or were they still allowed to kind of riff?
Oh, man, I honestly don't remember, but I want to say it was, if the writers have killed themselves writing this scene, you need to do this scene. But obviously, you've got pretty much by the end of the first season, everyone on that show is like a comic genius. Obviously Chevy Chase, Joel McHale, and we know that, we know that Donald Glover, hilarious, and it's just, everyone's really funny. All these actors are hired because they're great. So of course there's going to be ad-libbing now and then, but I want to say that you got to stick to the script, just because the writers put in the time for this.
Right.
So.
And I feel like on Community in particular, so much of the humor is really intricate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you pulled away one thread, I don't even know if it would necessarily work. Like that was one of the notes that I put in the script for this, was that there is an intricacy to the jokes on Community that I don't think would lend itself as much. I mean, probably there's some scenes and some lines where that wouldn't be the case, but there's a lot on Community that is hyper specific, where it's like it's a callback to something that happened 2 seasons ago, and it's a setup for something that's going to happen in a couple of episodes, and there's like a background joke that ties into it, like the Beetlejuice thing, where where you just like, you can't take away any of the blocks in this Jenga tower, or this elaborate joke structure collapses.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just coming from someone who has watched it and has paid very close attention to the writing, because the writing is so tight.
So if
my guess would be,
then your line has to change and it stops making
exactly.
sense.
Or it wouldn't be able to, because an entire scene is predicated on how this is worded even.
Right.
I mean, if you think about like Dean Pelton's dialogue, and the internal puns within what he says, or like even there are like foreign language jokes in it. There are like Spanish language jokes, there are French language jokes. I feel like there would be a lot of dialogue that would have to be set in stone, because it's so intricate in its humor.
I do remember there being like alternate lines for certain parts that you can try different jokes, but Kate's right. I mean, like, you can't just change like the button of a scene on the day, because it's like, well, the whole scene is building to this moment where Shirley says a thing and it's the biggest joke of the scene, but it's taking us to the next scene because that joke is the setup for the next act type of thing. And you can't just be like, well, I'm going to say something else. It's like, well,
just to clarify, in case listeners don't know what that means, the button is the final moment or beat before an act break. So right
or it
before
could be
it
of a
cuts
scene too.
Right. Like right before it cuts either to a new scene or to a commercial, that last sort of zing before we move on to something else is called the button.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Cool.
Industry lingo.
Yes.
I just want to make sure
No. You should, because I forget. That, I forget that. You're like, oh, we're hanging a lantern on this. And it's like, what?
So you mentioned working with Justin Lin, who's now of Fast and Furious fame. The Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, also did a lot of work on season 1. Did you have any interactions with them or any?
I did. Their office was at the corner opposite the writers, and they were kind of like 2 corner offices put together, and so they had the 2 doors, and you'd go into their offices, and they were great guys. They were really cool. And I remember when they were hired to do their first Marvel film, and I was like, what? Because it's, like those guys. Well, because like all I knew them from was Community. And I feel like you watch Community, it's so good. But I don't feel like you're like, Community, 30 minutes of spectacular, and you're like 2.5 hour massive $1 billion movie. And you're like, oh no, this is exactly how that it's like no, but I mean, they did a fantastic job, I think, with those movies. It didn't feel like that. It didn't, feel like they were out of their depth or anything. But I mean, those guys personally, they were really cool. Like, they were really nice, and they got along with everybody. And
from my understanding, and this is just from whatever you read on the internet. So if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Must be.
Everyone knows
establish the rules here.
100%.
That they got their shot, to do Captain America: Winter Soldier based on how they directed the season 2 finale, the spaghetti western and Star Wars paintball themed episodes.
That's awesome.
Which I think is pretty sweet. So
makes total sense.
Yes. This cast. I mean, we've talked about how just wonderful this cast and how hilarious the cast is together, especially as a group. Joel McHale, Jillian Jacobs, Danny Pudi, Yvette Nicole Brown, Allison Brie, Donald Glover, Ken Jeong, Jim Rash, Chevy Chase. They're just so wonderful, especially, just how they interact together. Did you have any like positives or fun interactions with any of the cast members or anything, like any cool stories? Just, I don't know if you had any.
Allison Brie seems delightful, so if she's not, don't tell me.
I don't want to disappoint you, but no. Absolutely. Everyone was fantastic. No.
I feel like Danny Pudi could be my best friend, but
Very sweet guy. Will talk your ear off. Like you just run into him at like craft service or whatever. But hey, Danny, you'd be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And very nice. Allison, Gillian was the same way. I remember when they were shooting the Halloween episode, we had our on-set craft services, and then there was like a little baby sort of mini trailer for craft services where they kept cold stuff. So if you like wanted a sandwich and go get some cold cuts and something like that, that's where that was. And I remember going into the that outside trailer one day, I don't remember what for, but Gillian Jacobs was out there dressed as a squirrel.
Yeah.
And she's getting something, I'm
Adorable.
getting something. And I worked up the courage to say, hey, I really liked your episode of Fringe that aired last night. It was really good. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. And we talked about Fringe for a bit. And because she's in a really fun episode of that show and super nice. Donald Glover is very nice, very professional. Joel McHale, great. I delivered a script to his house one day. That was really nice. Kim Jong, probably one of the sweetest people I've ever met. I have a picture from the rap party with him. Is fantastic. I actually have the LT Gray poster that he has. I have the original mock-up that the art department did to show as like proof of concept, and he signed that for me.
I didn't
Super
know that,
nice.
Will.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I was today years old when I learned
Yeah.
It's not framed. I have
Keeping
some cool
secrets from
stuff
us.
that I just don't have framed. I need to frame that. But super nice. Yvette Nicole Brown is okay. If I had to like list
another contender.
I know if I had to list the 3 nicest people I've ever met, Melissa Ponzio, Ken Jeong,
No doubt.
Yvette Nicole Brown. Like just the
Okay.
nicest people ever. Like there was one
really
night
down to earth. I mean,
yes, absolutely. And there was like one night when I drove Yvette out to her car because like the parking lot was kind of far from where we were shooting and it was like late. So I just drove her out in one of the golf carts and we just chatted. And then we got out and I got to her car and she was like, all right, good night. I was like, what? And I was just like,
that's nice.
like that. She's like, see you tomorrow.
Oh.
And that was it. And I was just like,
It's like alone in a parking lot in the middle of the night going,
like,
yeah.
no one
You
ever
mean?
witnessed this. Why is
Pop,
there no
pop.
one ever witnessed? So, yeah. But yeah, so everyone was great. Everyone was fantastic. Jim Rash, very funny. Like everyone was just nice. Like it was not a hard set. Like, I mean, let me take that back. It was all jobs are hard. That's just how life works.
course.
But it was never not pleasant. It was never not fun.
Right.
Because it's like one of those things where it's like, hey, we need someone to go to set. Me. I want to
Right.
do that thing. Because like you walk in, they'd have the giant sliding door to open up, and it was always like just cracked open. And so you would just walk in and there's the set. Like there is the study room. It was like they built basically because on the pilot they shot on all that was a real location. Like all those sets were real locations. They didn't build anything for that, which is typically what happens on a pilot.
Right. You don't want to spend all that money.
You don't want to spend all that money if it's
Fine.
never going to be
Get
used
that.
again.
Right.
Absolutely.
But and so they just rebuilt it basically. And so yeah, you just walk onto the stage and it's like, oh, now I'm in a community college. It's like the whole stage was just built like that, and it was fantastic. And so it's just like any chance you got, and then you would walk through a door onto the second stage. We had 2 stages that were touching each other, and that was where the cafeteria was. And they would have some of the classrooms over there. And so it was just always, whenever you went down there, you're going to see something cool or fun, whether it's somebody dressed as like an outrageous character. It's like you're walking down there and it's like, oh hey, look, there's Danny dressed as Batman up on the thing.
Yeah,
and
I've always wanted to ask the real Batman.
And so it's like there's always something happening, or you're like doing something and it's like someone's wheeling a Luis Guzman statue past you, or
Luis
something.
Guzman.
So there's always something interesting happen, or you would have to, like, there's a far parking lot on the opposite side of Paramount, and we would take people to their cars there, and you'd like drive by the set. And it's like, oh, there's the sailboat in the parking lot. It's like, and they're filming that, and they've got like
introduction to sailing in the parking lot.
and they're just driving it like in circles, and there's people on there like fighting and all this, and you're just watching it. You're like, this show is so nuts. but it's so much fun.
This show's
You
so
know,
nuts.
it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like anybody showing up for a set visit, everything is so out of context. And then you're just like, it's like a madhouse out here. But then you watch the episode, you're like, oh, that makes total sense now. But
mentioning the show that's so nuts, the show came out like right after I graduated from college, and I'm watching the show and thinking, did I miss out on my college experience? Because I don't remember paintball on the quad and taking sailing in the park. I mean, what did I just go to the wrong school? I mean,
yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes.
You should have gone to Colorado.
Should have went to Greendale, Colorado. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, one of the top community colleges in the lower southeastern Greendale region. I got one more question for you, then we can move on. Well, I have like a million more questions, but I'll ask one more, and we'll move on. Do you have like a favorite memory working on season 1 of Community?
Oh, man.
I don't know, that kiss was probably right up there.
I was going to say, it's
Right?
the whole Brown story.
Kiss was pretty good. I don't really have one abiding memory. I have the abiding injury from Modern Warfare.
Still can't move my shoulder. But.
Yeah, I can't move my
seems
shoulder
on
for a
brand.
week. But my real
So
abiding
funny.
memory is more a feeling, and it was just fun. Like
Yes.
it was just like, you know, it was just one of those jobs where it's like my alarm went off in the morning, and I was like, I get to go to work today. I get to go do this thing that nobody understands because nobody does it, and no one else I know does this thing. And it was just fun. Everybody was nice. People got along. It, you know, again, like every job, you've got bad days. You know, that's just life.
Absolutely.
But it was just fun. It was just so much fun to go to, and you know, we would have, you know, like lunch would sometimes be in the cafeteria set, you know, because it's there, type of thing. You might as well go sit there and eat. And,
Was it meatballs every day?
It was not meatballs every day.
Did you run out of chicken tenders every day? Because I feel like that.
I never
about
got
the chicken tenders was way too like intricate for it not to have happened in real life.
No, I never got the chicken tenders, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
They were always out.
They were always
They
out.
were always out. You
So
have to get there early.
you got to get there early.
Got to know someone who runs the fry station. I mean, just dressed like a crazy pharaoh for you, man. All right, sorry.
No, but yeah, it was just great. It was just fun. That's my abiding memory, is just the feeling of having a really good time.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. All right, so
I actually have a question for Will. Can I ask him?
oh, absolutely, go for it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you also got your start as an office PA on Teen Wolf. How did the two experiences compare? Like, what was it like being an office PA on Community versus being an office PA on Teen Wolf?
Choose your favorite child. Go.
I'm sorry, say that again. What was that? I hear you. What'd you say, Ashby?
Oh, I just said choose your favorite child. Go.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf.
Oh,
Teen Wolf.
Okay, he
But
didn't
that
get to
because
write
that
on
that's
Community.
because yes. What's that?
He didn't get to write on Community.
I didn't get to
that's
write on
fair.
Community.
That's a fair
I
statement. Yes.
I
That's true.
would not have written on Community. I am not. Okay. To be a writer on Community, that type of show, it's like you have to be so funny, but you also have to be so smart. And I am so not those things. So
Oh, come
it's
on.
no, it's different.
Sell
I can
yourself
make
short, man.
fun
Self-advocating.
puns and we can have laughs and all that. That's different. Like, I mean, where you are writing a scene, and it was like, okay, we are writing a scene between Jeff and Britta, or Jeff and Abed, whatever. And it's like, this scene has to be so poignant and good. Like, I mean, like if this was a drama, it has to be good. Like this, just, you know, like the stuff with Abed's dad and all that, where it's just like, this
Oh,
has
that
to
was
just,
so
good.
this has to be good, like so good. Also, it needs to be the funniest thing that has ever happened.
Right.
You know, you have to do both. And I'm like, I can barely do one of these, like barely, you know? And so like, I remember when I first started working on the show, I was like, I want to try and be a writer assistant on this show. I would like to try and do this. But then about halfway through the first season, I was like, nah, nope. I will try and be the writer's assistant, but I don't think I have what it takes to do that job, just because I don't want to blow my own horn here, but I think I'm a pretty okay writer. I think I know how to
Is that
do the
blowing
job.
your own horn? That is so.
I'm pretty
something you would
okay
say.
I am good enough that Jeff Davis never fired me. But, you know, so that's
Put that
how
on
it
the top
is.
of the resume.
That's
Right.
the top of my
IMDb,
resume.
yes.
I'm so
Yeah.
good. Jeff Davis never fired me. But it's just different. It's like I have tried to write comedy in the past. It's never been good. I don't have that skill set, because it's like you have to be two things at once, you know. And I'm not saying like Teen Wolf was just one thing. I mean, it was very good, but
I know
like,
some lines that you wrote on Teen Wolf that were funny, and I specifically know you wrote those lines.
Which ones? Tell me.
Okay, like, do you remember the bit where Derek is gonna cauterize a wound for Peter, and he flicks the lighter, and Peter's like, "Oh, that's not gonna be so bad," and Derek goes, and then like uses the lighter to light a blowtorch.
Yes.
And it just cuts back to Peter's face, and he's just like, "Oh my god." That was Will.
okay, I did pitch
That
that
was
line.
funny.
That was funny.
And that's really good. Like, you watch that.
Okay,
and
but the
it's-
thing is, you got to
Plus,
do
it's
that.
really
like-
hard to give Derek humor. So, like,
true.
A+.
Right.
That's true. But the thing with comedian is you have to do that like every single line of every
thing.
scene.
Yeah,
It has to
okay.
be funny,
That's fair.
but also good.
Yeah. Plus, you
So,
spent more
but
time on
it's
Teen
just
Wolf, so
it's really apples
that
and
makes
oranges.
sense.
It's
Yes.
really apples and oranges. But to answer your question, working on Community did help with Teen Wolf. I mean, like those aspects weren't different. Where it's like, okay, we are running call sheets from the 80s given to us. We are making sides every morning before we shoot. Oh, they fixed the scenes. So we have to run more sides or this or that. You know, it's like all those parts are the same. Oh, you got to go to Panavision to pick up a lens or something. Like that's all the same. But it's just the atmosphere is different. Where on Community, you walk outside and there's Garrett or somebody dressed crazily, you know, or as happened to me a number of times when we were shooting Community, they were shooting the first season of a show called Men of a Certain Age with Ray Romano and Andre Brower and third guy. And I don't. Oh, John
someone who's
Leguizamo.
not
Was that
Andre
John Leguizamo?
Brower.
What's that?
I said,
No one watched
and then
that
the
show?
third guy was someone who was not Andre.
Someone
Brower.
not Andre Brower, who
Yes.
my mom,
Noing.
who my mom loves. Like we watched Homicide. Like I grew up watching Homicide with her and
yeah.
Pimbleton. Probably one of the best characters on all
Third
of
guy
television. What's that?
Bakula.
Yeah.
Bakula.
And Scott Bakula.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
one
know who
day
he is.
I come out of our office, I'm walking down the steps, and there's Andre Brower just like walking down the street, belting out a song, just singing to himself, you know, and like I'm just standing there like
Before.
I'm just like, oh my God. And he's like singing, and he goes like that. And I'm just like, why isn't anyone here to see these things that happened to me? But
No one was ever around for those moments.
And yeah,
Why have you never bragged about this before?
He
He
You
does
know
have
how
secret
I-
stories.
I don't
You
know.
You know how I feel about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Don't act like you don't.
I know, but so you trade that on Community, where like all of that is swapped for monsters.
Right.
You know, where it's like, oh my God, this scene is so funny, and oh my God, people are getting eviscerated.
Right,
You know, it's like
right.
those are the things that changed. Everything else about the job stayed the same.
Right.
You know, it's like it's timing when lunch is going to be called, because you would have the walkie-talkies where you're listening. It's basically the production people down on set are all on the same walkie channel, and they're saying, oh, we're done with this, turning around to shoot Yvette Nicole now, or this or that. So we always know what's happening. And so you would do that. And then it's like time looking at the call sheet and what they're shooting, and timing is like, how long do I have to get down there for catering to be first in line type of thing. So you're doing that math all the time. And it's like, okay. And you're talking to like Tim and Dan, like, who's going to stay up here? Who's taking the order to get food type of thing. And then it's the same thing on Teen Wolf, where it's like, the only thing that helped that was that we were all on one stage. So the writers were just feet away from the stage.
Right.
And so then it's just like, because we had Jeff with us, you know, there's like, you walk down there and I was like, oh, look who gets to go to the front of the line type of thing. You know, but
The cool kids.
we never did that. We never did that. Jeff was very much, because usually like the first people you get in there are teamsters, stunts, and makeup effects. Like the people who have been like, oh, we're doing a Canema makeup and it takes 14 hours to get him into it. So we've been here a while type thing. It's like
Yeah.
front of the line. I've been sitting in a chair drinking coffee, looking at a whiteboard all day. Come on, let's go. But yeah, so the jobs were the same in that respect. You just change one crazy for another form of crazy.
You walk out and see a dread doctor. It's like,
There's Marty walking around with a dressed as a dread doctor. Like, oh my God, he pulls off his helmet. He's like, hey, what's up? It's like, oh, hey, Marty. You know, and that's it. He puts it back on. It's like Darth Vader's back type of thing. But
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing, you know, these wonderful stories, I'm hearing a spin-off podcast Story Time with Will Wallace.
Yes.
Where we just get to hear random stories about Andre Braugher singing in a parking lot and Yvette Nicole Brown asking for a kiss on her way out of the golf cart. I mean, just wonderful stories.
Yep.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm here for it because apparently there's a bunch that you've kept from us after all these years.
Well, again, I have to parcel these out so you'll still want to be friends with me.
That's right.
Like,
That's fair.
no, I
That's
stand
fair.
Captain Holt.
Yeah.
Can't give it all
Captain
out
Holt's
at
like
once.
one of my favorite characters ever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
He is. He's trying to ration his really good stories because
I gotta ration it out because at some point they realize I'm just some
friendship-
guy.
Yeah,
That's it.
7
That's all I
years
got.
into this friendship,
Yeah.
he's still like, but do they really like me?
I literally.
Dude, it's been 7 years. We're like a common law throuple at this point.
That's
Honestly.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Honestly,
I literally texted him this morning asking if he had any Teen Wolf stories we hadn't heard yet, and he was like, "No." And I'm thinking he's a total liar. Total liar.
Well, see, Will, I can understand though because Ashby's been around me for a year, and I'm still wondering. Okay, are we friends now, or are we just podcast buddies? I don't know.
We're gonna get like into season 3 of the Teen Wolf podcast and I'll be like, well, that's my last story, and you're just gonna hear like a mic hit the desk. I'm like, guys,
He's done,
hello, guys, and that's just the end of
He
it.
thinks that this is the longest con that has ever.
Yes. 100%.
Well, I keep trying to figure it out because
It
it's
is.
like I don't know what I offer them. It's like I used to work on a really cool show. It's like, well, that must be why they're friends with me. Well, I don't work on that show anymore.
And
and
yet,
there's something I don't see.
me and
don't know
Kyle,
what
Called
it is yet.
codependency.
me and Kyle, our other co-host, we're convinced that once Ashby gets established, she's going to ditch us for another podcast. So, using
and
us as
Ashby's just
stepping
sitting there
stone.
nodding,
Yeah.
like,
He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Gotta go
Spot
for
on.
the
Yep, that's the
Beyonce.
plan.
Yeah.
spot on. Yeah.
Eventually, I'm just going to be like, welcome to the What podcast. I'm Ashby Brame.
And that's it.
and that
I'm
is
getting
all.
Michelle Williams out of here. I mean,
Right.
all right. So, which character
Yes.
does each person identify with? Any volunteers to go first?
I feel like
Okay,
I want to be
cool.
Jeff, but I'm Britta, and that's all I have to say about that.
You like bagels too? A
Did you live
New
in
York
New
bagel?
York?
You don't get that reference, but you should.
I
I lived in New York, Troy. I know what a bagel is. Yeah, if I had no self-awareness, I think I'd
Is
know.
that a bag of bagels?
No,
Okay.
No.
it's just a bagel.
It should be.
That's how
But
she
Dan Harmon says bagel. Like, that's where that
Yes,
comes
it's
from.
a Dan Harmon thing.
It's a Dan
Yeah.
Harmon thing.
Like,
Yeah.
he legitimately
Says
pronounces
bagel.
it
Bagel, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That's where that came from, is
Cool,
what
cool.
I read. I believe it was in an interview, so cool.
I love that.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yes, I've got her saying that now, and I don't know if she's saying it because it's Community or if it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but we've
Yes.
got her saying it.
Nine, nine.
Yes.
I feel like I wish I related more to Jeff, but I feel like, I'm with him on the sarcasm, but I just lack his confidence. I wish I
Right.
had Jeff's kind of confidence. But I feel like I identify most with Abed because, I'm so into pop culture. I feel like I view life through a pop culture lens.
hmm
But I think the great thing about Community is that I feel like all the characters are pretty relatable throughout it, except for
Yes.
Pierce.
Well,
No one
yes.
could relate to Pierce except for Chevy Chase.
But here's the thing about Pierce. Everyone knows a Pierce.
That's
also-
true.
Yes.
Yes,
You
I
can
do
you
know
can relate
Pierce.
to
You may
being
not
someone
relate to him.
around
Yeah.
Pierce.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's totally true.
I
Yeah.
feel like I relate
did
to
think
Pierce's lawyer.
So,
So yeah.
100%.
Oh my goodness.
Every Pierce needs someone in their life that just constantly follows them around going, you can't say that.
Or,
you can't say that.
as they did in the season 2 premiere, walks around and just tweets everything he says with under the handle old white man says.
Old white man says.
I mean,
Yes.
honestly.
I would follow that Twitter.
I love
Oh,
old
yeah.
white man says.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What about you, Kate? Who do you identify with?
I also identify with Abed for some of the same reasons. I also feel like I identify with Annie a little bit. I see a little bit of myself in Annie. It's
Mhm.
not a part of myself that I like. Like that. I mean, Annie, like
That
all the
Adderall
characters.
addiction.
The pills. Yeah.
Little
it's,
Annie Adderall.
It's, not to say that like Annie is not a good character. All the characters have their strengths and their flaws, but I definitely feel like the aspects of her that I identify with, I'm kind of like, I wish I didn't, but definitely some of that type A stuff.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be totally honest. Will, when you wrote in the script, you wrote Senior Chang, and I was like, Will wrote Senior Chang in the script.
Oh no.
She did.
Oh,
She
no.
turned at me and said, "Well,
I did. I did.
no.
And you know that if he had spelled it correctly, but without the Enye over the N, I still would have said something.
Yes.
I would
That
rather
is-
that.
That is but that is the Annie in me. That is the like twitchy type A-ness in myself that I can relate to a little bit, sadly. And I absolutely have been the person that was like, I got an A-. How? Why?
Yeah, 100% me.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, as Kate pointed out, I chose Senior Chang.
El Tigre.
El Tigre.
Spanish genius.
Spanish genius. But I chose him because he is the king of fake it till you make it. And he was the Spanish teacher, but knew 0% Spanish.
Yes.
And I felt that very deeply in the core of imposter syndrome I carried with me every day on Teen Wolf. So it was just every day I was like, today's the day when they're like, oh, wait, he doesn't actually know what he's doing. And they're like, thank you for your time. And they give me a gold watch and I walk away. But yeah, so I felt that a lot. Granted, you know, it is a little bit different, but just that whole fake it till you make it and just pretend like you know what you're doing and hopefully no one's going to catch on. So yeah, that's why I feel that kind of connection with him. Also, for a time, I too lived in the labyrinthian air duct system of a community college.
Oh, okay. Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So I get that.
Was
It's
there a
like this
monkey
there.
roaming the vents
hasn't?
with you?
He was the monkey.
I
you
was the
played,
monkey.
you played Annie's boobs.
I see.
Okay.
I was the
he
monkey
played Annie's
yes,
boobs.
yes.
for a hilarious Asian man who also lived in there with me. I was the monkey. So
Of course.
Okay.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
So
Yes.
so yeah, Senior Chang.
Did you go by Kevin at any point?
Only when he had Changnesia.
I Changnesia, yeah, exactly.
You
I'm
work at
Kevin.
Shirley Sandwiches. The food there is Kevinly. You know,
A
a lot of puns. Anyway, Calista, when you said that, like you felt like all the characters, you know, the show's so good because you can pull from so many different characters and find traits in yourself in a lot of these characters. That, you know, that was going to be a point I was going to make because I see a little bit of myself in not everybody because Ken Pierce, but
Yeah.
but like in Jeff, like I don't have his, you know, like overconfident narcissist like Lothario type, you know, personality, but I understand how like people look to you as a leader to make these great winger speeches, you know, and then like his story arc over the course of 6 seasons, you know, where he hates being in the group. He, you know, everyone gets on his nerves, but he evolves into like really needing the group. Like the group kind of saved him from being a bad person. I get that because sometimes I feel like I need my group, you know, otherwise I would be a jerk. Like I feel like they ground me. So I understand that from, I feel like that from Jeff's perspective, that's kind of what I get from him. Of course, Abed, as we've all mentioned, because there's not a day that doesn't go by where I'm not quoting something from Pop,
Yeah.
or I'm not singing something from, you know, a movie or a musical or whatever. It's just, I compare life to TV, movies, pop culture, whatever. So that's kind of just how I see my world through that lens. Shirley is someone that I also kind of compare myself to a little bit, where I can kind of identify with her, where she's a kind-hearted person, strong morals. You know, she has her faith-based background, but can be overbearing, can kind of resort
That's
to...
nice.
Yes, oh, that's nice. That's less nice. You know, just like... you know, just... I can see that in myself a little bit. I can see the type A with Annie, like you mentioned, Kate. You know, you mentioned the whole, you know, grammar thing with senior and senor, and I would have done that too because, you know, I'm someone who just like, I don't know if it's the teacher in me, even though I teach phys ed, I don't teach English, but if I get a paper and something's misspelled, and you see it a lot in elementary school, I'm like, okay, let me just mark this up with a red pen real quick because this is wrong. Okay, you need to learn how to do this right.
Apply yourself.
Yes. Yes. Like, I don't know, it's like the perfectionist, in me, just wants to point all that and make sure everything's perfect, which it's not. And then like Troy, like I don't know, his youthfulness, his, attempts to really just kind of want to blend in and be cool. One of my favorite lines from him, it's a throwaway line and it's hilarious, but I think it does speak to like his relationship with the group. He says, "I didn't really go to Legoland. I just told y'all that because I wanted y'all to think I was cool."
Oh, I love that line.
It's a fantastic, and he pulls it off so wonderfully.
He does.
But wrapped up, and I think this is what y'all were talking about with the idea of writing on Community. Wrapped up in that one little hilarious line, there's a lot of heart behind that, where he's like, "Yes, that's hilarious. You didn't go to Legoland. You lied about that. Okay, that's funny." But he's just trying to fit in too.
Yeah.
And I think we can all kind of identify with that. So
I feel like in what little I've seen of Community, Troy always seems like the most innocent of the group.
he is.
Like he
Yes,
just seems
definitely.
like the sweetest, the one who's there for like the purest of motives most of the time, where like the others always have something going on, and like Troy just wants to be a part of it.
Well, in his penultimate episode, before Donald Glover left the show in season 5, Pierce had passed away, and they were being
Like for real though.
in the show. Yes, Pierce had passed
For real?
away.
Okay.
For real. Yes.
They wanted to kill Chevy Chase.
Yeah, he did. He did not fake a heart attack this time.
Because I've seen a lot of episodes where
He
dies.
actually died doing something that we're not going to talk about on this episode because it's a family-friendly show. But when they were doing the bequeathing of the things from Pierce's estate, Troy was offered his shares in Hawthorne Lights, valued at like several $1 million, if he sailed around the world on Pierce's boat, the Childish Tycoon. Nice reference to Childish Gambino there. And he mentioned like everyone else kind of figured out what they wanted. Annie wanted to work like in criminology or like a CSI, crime scene investigations or whatever. Britta wanted to be a therapist. Jeff wanted to be a lawyer. Shirley wanted to open a business. They all had, Abed wanted to work on, in TV and film. They all had something, and Troy never had like that defined thing. Like he had a little run where, maybe he's a janitor, maybe he's working for the AC repair school, but he never had a really defined run of what he was getting out of going to Greendale. And he addresses that like, I feel like, Pierce saw something in me that maybe I didn't even realize until just now. He said, I want, and then they turn it on and it says like, he's offering something I've wanted my whole life. Millions and millions of dollars. and growth and all that other crap. But yeah, so yeah, he's definitely the most innocent, and he's just trying to find himself a little bit. He's not. I don't think he's the youngest. He is the youngest one in the group. I think. No, he's not. Annie's the youngest one, because everyone's not 10 for 2 years, Troy. But
Oh, that's right.
because everyone's 10 for 2 years. Everyone goes through 5th grade twice, right? Mom, how much did you lie to me?
And watching him have that realization in real time is
Yes.
so funny.
So good.
Yes, this party just became lame. All right.
Also,
One of my favorite episodes was definitely when he meets LeVar Burton.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
You can't disappoint a
Yeah.
photo.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to meet him.
they just cut to him in the corner, and he's butterfly in the sky. I can fly twice as high. Take a look. It's a rainbow.
It's so
And he just
funny.
breaks down. Oh my goodness.
Sorry, Kate. What were you gonna say?
Yes, what were you going to say, Kate?
Oh, no, I was going to... I just wanted to congratulate you on using the word penultimate, which is such a good word. Because it's a podcast and no one could see the way I lit up when you said penultimate.
Yay. That word of the day toilet paper you got me is working. For a while, when Ashby was recording from home, she would use these big words while she was like zooming in with us, and it's like, where do you get those words? Like, our word of the day this week is this. So I'm happy to be the one to contribute a good word.
Nice.
Contribute. I guess,
Nice.
I messed up that word now, but go
Nice. Highs and
Yay.
lows.
Penultimate.
Very
Yes.
good word.
Thank you.
But-
Compliment. Yay.
Cool.
We don't use $10 highfalutin words on our podcast.
Yes, we do.
I know, but
He does.
No, if
Hey,
I were to
Dad.
use that,
That's
if I
what
was to
you
use
bring.
that word, if I was to use that word here in Johnston County, North Carolina, they'd be like, "What's so ultimate about your pen? Like, why is it so good?" It's like, no.
My boss asked me for a synonym for choices the other day, and I said accoutrements. She was like,
Oh.
"Oh, what?"
accoutrement.
It's like, options.
Yeah. Right. In my defense of my like being way too overbearing about grammar and language, in my defense, my grandmother, if you would say to her, "Where is that at?" she would respond, "I'm not joking," behind the preposition at.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you cannot end a sentence
Yes.
in a preposition, and she wanted to make sure that anyone who did so knew from that point that that was not the grammatically correct way to organize that sentence, and she would respond behind the preposition at.
Yes.
So I was never not going to be the Annie
Oh, yeah.
Edison of my pod.
I'm the same way. I would ask to get up from the dinner table, and I would say, "I'm done," and she would go, "Ashby, eggs are done. People are finished."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh.
See, I feel like we're getting along great.
I think Hannibal
feel
Lecter
very-
would disagree, but so
I feel very Ross,
tomato.
very Ross Geller, especially when it comes to like your and you. You know, Y-O-U-R is your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E is you are. Just like
Yes.
get those right. There. Get all those right, please. Pet peeve. Anyway, we're not a grammar podcast, so let's move on.
But we could be.
We
Yeah.
might be spinoff.
Could be.
Spinoff.
Looking for those spinoffs.
Yep.
That's right.
All right. What's next on our script?
Fun
We have
facts.
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
Any fun facts? Let's do some fun facts for
Eric,
community.
it says one per person.
Yes, and I'm only gonna pick one. I promise.
Who wants to go first? I don't have a fun fact, so.
Wait, is this like about us or about community?
Oh, sorry. I should have caveated that.
Yes, you should.
So at the end of every episode, we do a fun fact section where, like, basically the IMDb page where it has like trivia, trivia
yeah.
about characters or production or Easter eggs, like things like that. Where you're like, in this episode, there was a basket of flowers in the background, and you'll notice that like 5 episodes later, the flowers were here instead, or whatever. So. That's what fun facts are.
Like the Beetlejuice thing would be a good fun fact.
Okay, yeah, and Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies, so that one was so funny. Do you know what plotline we're talking about, Ashby?
No.
So
you want to tell her? Okay.
yeah, so basically what happens is, so in Beetlejuice, you say his name 3 times and it sort of conjures him, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In this episode, the name Beetlejuice is said by characters 3 different times throughout the episode, and if you notice, after it's said the 3rd time, you can see Beetlejuice on
Walking in
screen.
the background.
Background.
Yes.
Just walking in the background at Greendale Community
Just
College.
like without any context.
no
Right.
No context.
no commentary
Amazing.
whatsoever. It's
Okay.
just like they
Okay.
said his name 3 times and thus
I love
he was
it.
conjured, but they don't comment on it. It's just like in the
It's just
background
there.
type thing. That is one of my favorite, just
They were
again,
great with like background.
so
humor.
intricate.
Yeah.
Right.
Just this like minutia of even the minutia of the episode
Yeah.
was a joke in and of itself.
Right.
Like so, they mentioned it in I think it was like 3 separate episodes. Actually, they mentioned it in season 1 where Professor Slater is like, "So what's the girls in Brit Better Beetlejuice?" And you're talking about Britta, and
Yeah.
then a season later in season 2 when they're doing cooperative calligraphy. Britta comments on Jeff's underwear saying, "Oh, you're wearing the stripy Beetlejuice numbers." And then in season 3, they mention it again, like in the Halloween episode where they're talking about the Beetlejuice soundtrack. And then as they say Beetlejuice, someone's walking in the window behind Annie or Britta or whoever. And it's just like such a deep callback. Like,
Deep
Interesting.
callback.
I mean, oh my goodness. So,
I forgot that they weren't even in the same episode.
No,
I
yeah, it was
Very
like
forgot
3
about that.
across 3 seasons. Like it's
So
crazy.
that's a great example. You couldn't, if anybody ad-libbed one of those lines and didn't say the word Beetlejuice and just said, Britta Beethoven, it wouldn't have worked,
Right.
right? Because
Yes.
it's this very
You had to
intricate
say it
joke
out
that
loud
takes
3
place
times.
across multiple seasons.
But I mean, also that means the writer's room is having to keep track of something that intricate and that quick over multiple seasons. So like you have to be like, okay, 2 seasons ago in this episode we said the name Beetlejuice. So we have to make sure that we're not oversaying it and we're not undersaying it, and that we know exactly when we've said it 3 times. Like,
yeah, which I think is kind of what Will was talking about, that there's an exactitude to Community that is just kind of incomparable in other shows. Not to say that like there are no other shows that are great or as good, but it's part of the Community style is that it's so exacting about everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
So my fun fact is I really love the movie Clue, and they have Martin Mull and Leslie Ann Warren are in the movie, and they play Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet. And then on Community, they're married and Britta's parents.
Yes, her parents who are never spoken about until season 6.
Wow.
Who are secretly supporting their daughter, who is raising awareness of homelessness because she has no choice.
I love Clue.
Yeah.
I love Clue so much.
It's so great. And I feel like actually, when Calista, when you wrote that in the script, I was like, an extra layer of perfection to that, besides the fact that Clue is amazing, is that I feel like there's a little bit of similarity in terms of the types of humor that you get in Community and in Clue, because Clue ranges from this sort of slapstick physical comedy to absurdism, but then also these very intricate jokes. You know, like with Clue, when they do the, especially if you're watching it with all 3 endings where all 3 completely work, and it's like there are callbacks and connections in that movie, as with Community, that you have to have multiple viewings to catch them all.
Right.
So I feel like there's a little bit of a connection there, it feels like, in terms of the types of comedy that they mine and the degree of exactitude required to pull off these elaborate jokes.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
And like we've said a couple of times, like a throwaway line is like Community doesn't have throwaway lines. It has, there are lines in scenes that you would say that's a throwaway line because we were like a transition or something like that. But it's like, those were all like poured over. That's like, what's, like this is on any other show, this is the throwaway line. But for us, like, this is a joke. Like, it's like every joke, every line is like, this has to be the best line. Like this one, I know the one that came right before was the best line, but no, this is now
also the best line.
And
they're jokes within jokes on that show.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were very, Kate said it correctly, it was like very exacting with what they did. And I think the comparison to Clue is completely spot on, just because I mean that whole movie is nothing but dialogue, and it's all very fast, and it just pops. But you're right, it's like they're talking about so much stuff and there's so many jokes happening, and then out of nowhere there's a callback to something that happened 10 minutes ago that you've already forgotten about because they've raced to another room, and they're talking about something else. It's like, and now someone else is dead or this or that, and then they just casually mention something that's a joke in this scene, but it's a joke only if you've seen the previous scene, type of thing. And it's like, I feel like Community is nothing but that type of thing. And the Beetlejuice example being or Beetlejuice being a prime example of that, where it's like, if you're just watching that Halloween episode, there's no joke. Like, you haven't gotten anything, because I mean, that's the whole point of that moment, is like, we're not talking about this. This is happening. And if you know what's happening, great. If you don't, well, it still works anyway, type of thing. But that only comes with, I mean, just working so hard to make it so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So my fun fact is the relationship this show has with the long forgotten NBC series, The Cape. So, like, I watched the Cape pilot episode many years ago, liked it, watched episode 2, hated it, and I fell out after about 3 weeks. So in a scene in the season 2 episode, Paradigms of Human Memory, which is a fantastic episode, because most sitcoms, I feel like, when they, I don't know how this necessarily works, so y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like sometimes they need to put together a clip show just to make their season, like, number of episodes, complete, and they might not have enough. I don't know how that works, but I know a lot of sitcoms do clip shows towards, the end of the season or whatever. And Community takes this trope and turns it upside down, and they include, it's a clip show of scenes you've never seen before. Memories that they've never talked about or ever seen on the show, which is fantastic to me.
Yes.
But there's a scene where Abed is like sneaking up on Jeff in the cafeteria. He's got the long cape on, just sneaking up, and he whips the cape around and takes Jeff's tray off the table, and then just runs away. And Jeff just yells, "That show's gonna last 3 weeks!" And then Abed responds with 6 seasons in a movie. Death's prediction was much more accurate. It lasted for 10 episodes, and there's no movie planned anytime soon. But that's how Community fans used, that line, hashtag 6 seasons in a movie, as a rallying cry to will their favorite show into perpetual existence, despite the constant threats of being canceled. It did get to its 6 seasons. Keith David, who was in The Cape as one of the villains, he was hired to narrate the show's Ken Burns Civil War parody, Pillows and Blankets.
Yeah.
Fantastic episode.
So good.
And at the conclusion, Jeff asked the narrator if, "Hey, were you in The Cape?" And Keith David's like, "No." No. And it's fantastic because Keith David was actually hired as a full-time cast member in season 6 as Elroy Patashnik, I think he just did a wonderful job in that season.
He's hilarious.
Yes.
Everyone who came on that show was great. Like, I mean, it's just like, they had, oh crap, now I'm forgetting his actual name, but he plays Mike Ehrmantraut on Breaking Bad.
Jonathan Banks.
Jonathan Banks comes in,
yes.
and it's just like it's like the last person you expect to come on, because like Breaking Bad is
interested.
But it's just like Breaking Bad's like at the height of its popularity, and he is a very intense character on that show. And then he's on Community, and he's astounding, and it's just so much fun. And like every single person they bring in, even like Luis Guzman showing up, where you're just like, this is awesome. Like this as himself being like, what is happening with the, and it's just like everyone who comes on, even like in the smallest roles, or even like this tight those little throwaway roles that would like happen, like Garrett or Pop or I can't remember the character's name, but the old man character, I can't remember his name.
Leonard.
But who is just like in the first season, these are just throwaway nothings, but then they were just like, well, let's do more. Like, I mean, let's not make them nothing. What do we do with them? And I feel like just like anyone who shows up on the show is like, I'm here to give 110%, please. And
random Leonard, side note here. I don't know which is my favorite Leonard running gag. I don't know if it's that he reviews frozen pizzas and chips.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
It's a buy. Or it's the fact whenever he's being interviewed in the documentary Pillows and Blankets, he fought for the North Korean army. And in his little reference at the end of season 2, he's Jeff, I've been in some real wars and none of them have been as terrifying as this paintball. Or the fact that he's banned from a random Denny's, the one place where we'll all meet again. That place is Denny's. Which Denny's? If the one on highway whatever, I'm banned from there. So good, so good. Any other fun facts?
I wasn't really sure whether this was supposed to be fun fact about the show or fun fact about ourselves. So I kind of tried to do both, and it's very it's really a stretch. But the closest that I could come to that, because I'm well, I don't have, a personal connection to the show, but there was one time while we were living in LA that Calista and I were dog sitting at someone's house, and Britt Marling's mail had accidentally been delivered there. We were bringing in the person's mail because we were house sitting, and it was addressed to Britt Marling, and we were really I mean, I don't want to say excited. Obviously, we didn't open her mail, but we were like, "Oh my God, Britt Marling's dope!" We had watched several of her movies, including Sound of My Voice, which is a really interesting movie, and I wanted to give it a shout out because I think she's a really interesting creative person. But the connection to Community is that she played a character in Community in one episode. She played Paige in season 2, episode 15, Early 21st Century Romanticism, which is the character that Britta befriends because she thinks that Paige is a lesbian, and Paige befriends Britta because she thinks Britta's a lesbian, and they are both playing a game of like lesbian chicken until they ultimately realize that in fact they are both heterosexual women who
just boring.
And they're just boring, and they're both heterosexual women, and neither of them ever thought to actually discuss this with the other.
Right. To ask.
So that's who Britt Marling played on Community, and we just accidentally brought in her mail one time and had to try let the owner of the house know, like, you're gonna need to get this to Britt Marling.
Oh, was this not in that cluster of places where y'all often dog sat? I don't want to use name. It was, she lived in that little thing.
She lived in his place.
I think she used to live
in his place.
Gotcha. I thought you meant they just put it in the wrong.
Right.
No, because the address was correct. It was just it was addressed to her.
Gotcha.
So I'm pretty sure that because we didn't want to say the person, but yeah. But so our theory is that she previously lived where he lived at that time.
Got
Which is a very cool place.
Yeah, it was.
It is a cool place.
It was a cool place. So
it was a fantastic dog sitting gig.
I'd like to know more about how she ended up on Community, just because she has a very interesting career that's really like offbeat and everything, and then she just does that like one episode of
which Community
sitcom,
is offbeat.
which I mean is offbeat,
but it's not. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't normally do comedic type stuff.
Right.
If you look at her filmography, she does a lot of very like independent, eccentric but
art
serious
kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. And then randomly, she's just like.
Episode of Community.
In an episode of Community, playing straight woman who some people randomly interpret as being a lesbian.
Right.
So I would be really interested in that too, Calista. But I also just wanted to shout out Britt Marling because she's cool. I've never met her. I just think her work is cool.
Yeah.
You just stand her.
Brie Larson also is in one episode where she just shows up and I
love Brie.
I feel like at that time she was kind of not the same as Britt Marling, but she'd also done like more, like I think at that point, crap, now I can't remember the name of that movie, but she was doing some like serious indie stuff. And then she's in that one episode and she's fantastic in it.
I thought she did more than one episode.
Oh, she did. She did one in season 4, and I think she was in 2 in season 5.
Oh, okay.
Like she ends up coming back, but just a random episode in season 4 where she
like
shows up as someone as Abed would be. Yeah, the coat checker girl.
Okay, yeah.
Who she didn't ask for permission; she just set it up on her own. That's actually probably the best episode in season 4 is that dance episode where Britta Perry wants to do a Sophie B. Hawkins dance and not a which she rid of. But then Sophie B. Hawkins shows up and it's great. So Brie Larson, I feel she's wonderful in her small time on Community.
Yeah.
Yes, I love her.
Plus a great little Marvel Community reference crossover, which I love.
And that was what for. It wasn't the thing I looked forward to the most, but I did look forward to watching in the Marvel films that the Russo Brothers were directing. It's like, which Community member is going to show up in this movie? And it's like, and then you'd be like, there's Danny, or this, and it's just like, oh, here we go. So yeah, it's good. So.
I have a question for y'all because I know we don't want to keep you too long, and we appreciate your time. But I did think of a question here that's off the cuff. Just thought of it. I should have put it in the script 3 days ago, but I didn't. So if y'all don't mind indulging me for just a moment.
I'll have to talk to my agent and get it approved.
All right, please do.
They all have IMDb pages. We don't have IMDb.
That's true. So if you say no, it's okay. I can't argue with you. But my question is, we have our 6 seasons. We do not have our movie. What would be your plot or how would you push for a Community movie, or what would your plot line? How would you set up a movie for Community?
Oh,
and I know I wish I had given y'all 3 days to figure this out because it just hit me 20 minutes ago. I wrote it down. I was like, the Community movie.
I know exactly what I want. It just popped right in my head. I want The Haunting of Hill House. That type of story, but with our characters, where they are for whatever reason at a haunted mansion.
Yeah.
And it's that.
No, it's the Haunting of Greendale.
A Haunting of Greendale.
Or that. Also good. I just want them
haunted by Chevy Chase's Pierce, who's not just a hologram anymore. He's an actual ghost.
Okay, we're like like
But Pierce is
horror
played by
movie
like Fred Willard or
obsessives.
something.
Yeah. We're like horror movie obsessives.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mhm,
I mean, pretty much. Like I have a coworker who would like anytime someone would name a horror movie, she'd be like, "I'll bet you $5 Kate has seen that movie," and she's so far been right every time.
That is
like
the
horror
most
movie
frustrating
obsessives.
aspect of our friendship. Is that I'm like something like I'll find this movie. I'm like, oh my God, this looks so cool. I want to watch it with Kate and Calista. And I'll like start texting it and it's like, seen it. Seen it.
Like, you're 6 months behind.
Yeah, I saw this 9 years ago. Okay.
We could tell from your ... in the group chat what movie you were gonna say, and we saw it 3 years ago.
It's very frustrating because it's fantastic because they've seen so many horror films. So it's like they introduced me to a lot of great stuff, but sometimes I want to be like, but I want to show you something.
The most like off the wall, like C-rated horror movie I've ever watched.
Oh boy.
Just probably because of the cast and like
Devour.
Yes, it's Devour.
We've seen Devour. Come on now.
Then I was like, they've definitely seen that.
Yeah. I just like.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, that's just such a trash movie. I mean, he's very Jensen Ackles is so pretty in that movie, but it is trash. And there's a scene I won't get specific because this is family friendly, but there's a very weird.
But
scene.
y'all know what scene we're talking about. If you've seen it, you don't need to.
That's like the only thing I really remember about that movie is how awkward that is.
It is.
So, oh my gosh.
Side note, we're doing an episode on Scream in October. Open invite for y'all to come talk about Scream.
So we're into horror a lot, but we're really excited to talk about Scream because that has a very like
the show or the
movie, the 1996
series.
movie.
Yeah,
cool.
The good one.
Just the first one, or are we going full?
We'll do the first one, and then maybe we'll get into some sequels later.
Yeah,
because I will say that is one where I've fallen short because I've actually only seen the first 2 Scream.
Me
films.
too, but I am happy to figure out what the other ones are based on pop culture references or something. So
Scream 3 is not great, but you probably should watch it anyway. Scream 4 is really, really good, and I'm really surprised it didn't do better at the box office.
Yeah.
Like it's.
I like
is that the one with Alison Brie?
Yes, Alison Brie's in Scream 4.
Hey, there you go.
Hayden Panettari's in there.
We brought it back around.
Yes, we
did.
did.
Brought it back.
Full circle, baby. Yeah.
I was showing my a friend of mine the Scream movies because he had never seen them, and just won't spoil Scream 4, but he was like in shock with like the ultimate reveal in Scream 4. Just
interesting.
Really floored.
Yeah, because I've only ever seen 1 through 3. I haven't seen 4 yet.
It was the Scream all along.
Yes, the Scream was the friends we made along the way. So. And we'll learn more about that in Scream 5 next year. So
there you go.
All right, so Haunting of Hill House.
It could be The Haunting of Greendale.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Jackson Cohen would be in it,
of course.
And I feel like it would be really fun because Bly Manor was also good. But one of the things that I missed about Hill House when watching Bly Manor was how they had each episode was from a different character's perspective. They did a little bit of that in Bly Manor, but it wasn't as it wasn't used as much as Hill House. And I actually think it would be really cool to do a movie that was like partially a send up of the Haunting series, but also a send up of anthology films where each part of the movie is from a different main cast member's perspective. So you can get a little of that same like intricate joke telling that we got on the show over multiple episodes, but it would be in multiple like segments of the movie. So there might be something that we see in the background in Abed's perspective, but it doesn't really come to fruition until we get, Troy's perspective or something like that. That would be really fun. And also they were really good at doing their like Halloween or spooky episodes in a way that is like very lighthearted and fun, but also plays with a lot of those scary tropes. That would be so much fun.
100%.
Yeah.
My pitch, I mean, it's not really a pitch, but, just I like to tie up loose ends. In the episode after Troy left, which is the bear down from Returns. On the TV screen, they're talking about the bear attack at the birthday party, but on the little scroll at the bottom, they mention LeVar Burton and non-celebrity guests captured by pirates off the coast of some country. And and we never got any like closure on that. So like my pitch for Community would be like, okay, we got to find where Troy is.
Right.
We got to figure out how to save him and LeVar Burton from the pirates, and it's not very original, but I want to see Donald Glover back on the screen with those people once again. I want to see him and Abed one last time. Yeah, so
Maybe
my
like
picks.
a Treasure Island, but
Yeah, so
Greendale edition.
or like a national treasure island type thing, just
And it's Troy and LeVar Burton.
yes,
Yeah.
Nice.
And also Nicolas Cage.
And
of
Nick
course,
Cage.
Nicolas
He
Cage
He was the pirate.
has
He's
to
the pirate
make.
king.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has.
Oh my
to
god,
make that
Nicolas
part.
Cage is the Pirate King.
He's the pirate king.
And Abed being so meta and fourth wall breaking, you like, it's him. He's a cat. He's a sexy cat. We just.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a sexy cat.
Calista, what was your idea?
I think it would be fun for like all the characters have gone their separate ways, and now they've kind of like just become very like successful and like lost touch with their Greendale roots. So then they all have to like come back to like save Greendale for whatever reason. Maybe it's been taken over and they've cut all like the ridiculous classes and it's just straightforward. And they're like, no, Greendale is the heart and
Yes.
soul of the world, and you can only get great people and creative people by having a school like Greendale, and more schools should be like it. And I don't know how to work more wackiness into it. It would just have to be like built in there, but bring
The
them all back.
climax of the movie has to end in a paintball war. I mean, obviously. So
Obviously.
Are you thinking
paintball
like a
war.
Romy and Michelle vibe?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or-
I want a paintball war to take place in the blanket fort.
Yes.
Messy.
Tie all the
Yes.
references together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pillows and paintball guns.
Yes.
Yep.
Also, LeVar Burton is there.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Yes. Why wouldn't he be? He's standing beside Louis Guzman, and his
There you
statue.
go.
Oh, or maybe it's Abed he's gone super Hollywood and he's going to make a Greendale community movie.
Yes.
And so everyone has to go to be like consultants.
Yeah, and they
Super
could
meta.
they could build on their, because they did a couple of the
Documentary.
filmmaking episode, documentary
Yes.
episodes.
Mhm.
But this one would be like actually taking a foray into a fictionalized rendering of Greendale or something. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be
Absolutely.
fun.
And everyone wants to go with a different tone. Shirley wants to make it like a religious film.
Of course, yeah,
Everyone wants to make it a very serious topic film.
right.
It's like Blackfish, but at community college.
Right.
Yeah.
All good ideas.
Those are
We
good.
should be writers.
Yes. If only we were writers.
I just want my own IMDb page now.
That's
all.
right. That's all I want in life.
Just I want that and one little credit, and I'm good.
That's all. That's
That's all I'm
that's
working
all.
for.
That's all we want.
All right, Ashby, do you want to just do our social media shout-outs real quick before we sign
We actually
off?
did have a few because I was very vague because I didn't want to do a big reveal yet. So I was like, just for reasons that I can't explain, tell us how you feel about Community. So we actually surprisingly had some people tell us. So Manda Gaddis said it's in my top 5 most rewatch shows. I feel like by the time I learn what your secret project is, I'll have to start watching it all over again.
Yes.
If we're gonna she's gonna be like, no, I should watch that. And then on our Instagram, we had someone comment, I love that show. And then hot take, we had someone comment, first few seasons were legit my favorite TV show. Then it fell off hard. LOL.
Wrong.
I'm
Other
just
than the gas leak year,
Right.
season 5 was strong, and season 6 wasn't as strong, but it had some really good moments.
anyway.
The first episode of season 6 is Ladders,
That's what the internet had to say.
which is paying off a gag from season 3 where they talk about the class Ladders.
It's great.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
There we go.
I'm back
I feel
on.
like-
Okay.
They just had a very like elaborate Bible for the show.
Show
Like,
Bible.
yeah,
Yes.
show Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Teen Wolf is over there. Like, I love Teen Wolf, but they're like, when's a character's birthday? Nah.
Man.
We know
How
that Derek
old
is
is
a
a
Christmas
character?
baby. We know
That's
that
not
Derek is a
actually-
Christmas baby.
That's not fully true because there's conflicting data on that.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Because
I've
I was
been
talking with a fan the other day.
no.
And they wanted
I've
me
been
to
in
ask-
love with that
yeah.
piece of canon for like years.
Wait,
And they're
who's
like-
a Christmas baby?
Derek is a Christmas baby.
I
Yeah,
said
feel
something.
like- I feel like I
Melissa
had accepted
asked
that
me.
headcanon.
Yeah, a fan wanted me to ask Will, and Will's like, what was it? What was your answer?
Well, I said it was something. She was like, "So is Derek's birthday December something?" And I
Christmas.
just stared at it for Christmas, whatever. And I stared at it for a long time, and I just responded with, "Well, time and age are nebulous in the werewolf
Honestly.
society. They don't
Honestly.
think about it the way we humans
Is
do."
there
I did.
a
He's-
time
And then she
what
responds
your
with,
birthday?
"So is that a no?" And I was just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's a
He's-
no."
I
Answer
did
the
not
question.
question.
Older than you might wait. What is the?
It's
what is the
it's
thing?
older
than we look, but younger than you might.
something.
No.
I don't know. Something.
Older than
We're younger than we look,
should be, or
but
something.
older than you would think.
Isn't Sal's birthday in March? Right? I feel like I saw something about that. And
See, what really is the problem is they released what was supposed to be canon Teen Wolf calendar with the characters' birthdays on it.
I worked on that calendar.
Did you?
I did. And then it wasn't canon.
Well, so I guess you're the one who came up with Derek's birthday being a Christmas baby.
I might have that document somewhere.
I'm in love with that. I'm in love with that headcanon. Don't take that from me.
Don't take
because it was in the DVD. It was in a DVD case, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
He's a Christmas baby.
But yeah, I was just very impressed by like the community Bible, because there's so many other shows where they like retcon themselves like
100
all the time.
That wasn't a sacrilegious thing, by the way. That's what they call them.
No, yeah.
That's what the writers' room calls.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd love to read the community Bible.
100,
if anyone can find one.
Like a phone book.
Yes.
It would be,
If I can get a copy of that for my birthday, that'd be great. Just saying.
Well, that
my
goes
birthday
back to
is canon.
It goes back to that nothing on that show is a throwaway. So they mention, Jeff is like, there's a class on ladders. That's a joke. And then like 2 seasons later, they're like, remember the ladder class? Climbing a ladder, biting into a beer. We got to do that now. Where it's just like, everything is a thing on that show that's worth remembering. And yeah.
I remember the day that I found out through some like article that J.K. Rowling's publisher had hired a person whose job it was to track every single thing that had been mentioned about Hogwarts in the book from book to book, so that she never contradicted where the staircases were, where the doors were, where each classroom was, like what lefts and rights that you were taking, and like if someone had been here then they couldn't be there, and I was just like, what? Like there's people that's their job to keep track of these things.
George R. R. Martin has 2 people living in Sweden who do that. They run I think it's the Ice and Fire website, and that's how they met. And then he sends them the books as he's writing them, and he's like, is this right? Did I mess this up?
I would have loved to do that for Teen Wolf. I would have volunteered his tribute so fast.
Right.
They probably should have hired that person for the Fantastic Beasts movies. I'm just saying.
Or just not made them.
Or just not.
I'm okay with that too.
Hot take.
7 books are just fine. Okay, we don't need all the rest.
I'm saying I could. Well, I'm kind of not in a good place with Harry Potter right now. But at that time,
we understand.
At that time,
in a good place.
I would have been fine for more. But I'm just like, you are shoving in all this interesting stuff that you're not going to do anything with.
Right.
And it's just like, stop that.
No, definitely. At one time, I would have been like happy to keep track of the continuity of Harry Potter, but anyway.
Unfortunately,
but
we'll talk about Harry Potter in September. So
it is really cool that there are people who like that's their whole job is continuity.
Absolutely,
really interesting.
So yeah, I want a community Bible.
Okay, that's what I'm taking away from this. I got it.
Thank you. Oh well. Folks.
It belongs in a museum.
Yeah,
it does.
So do you.
And that museum is here in our podcasting room. So, well, you've just stopped being a podcasting group. You've now become something unstoppable. I hereby pronounce you a community. And I didn't just butcher that line. Wow. A big thank you so much.
Yes.
I cannot express how grateful I am for Will, Calista, and Kate for y'all joining us today. I'm going to make you a promise. So, I was going to listen to, Ashby's episode of the Teen Wolf thing, but I want to really support you guys. So, I haven't seen the show. I'm going to watch an episode at a time and listen to your podcast after I watch the episode.
I just convinced someone to do that the other day, too.
To show solidarity with you guys, and thanks for your support and coming on the show with us today. And maybe I'll become a Teen Wolf fan, because...
You're going to love it.
You will.
You're going to love it.
It's great.
You will.
Yeah.
That's not a promise. That's a threat.
Yes.
In case
I
that
don't
wasn't
want to.
clear.
Yeah, I just
Yes.
no ambiguity.
Oh, you will.
You're
Or
gonna
he'll
love it.
So,
rip your throat out with his teeth.
That's
That's a
right.
reference you'll
That's right.
understand later.
Yes.
That's right.
but we can't wait to hear Ashby's episode or in any of the other Return to Beacon Hills Teen Wolf rewatch episodes. And for the listeners, if you are a Teen Wolf fan or if you're just a fan of witty banner like today's episode, I'm sure they'll have something for you as well. So make sure you check them out.
Yeah. So do you guys want to do a little sign off to just remind people where they can find you when the time comes? Do you have a date for your premiere episode?
Yeah, our first episode is going to go up where we talk about Wolf Moon, the Teen Wolf pilot, on June 5th, because that's actually the original air date for the pilot.
Nice.
Cool.
10 years
Okay.
ago.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, cannot believe that.
Now I feel really old because
Wow.
I watched it in real time.
Me too.
Yeah.
Practically.
But yeah, so that's when it'll go up, and it will be on Spotify, everywhere that you can find podcasts.
Yep.
So
We will be sure to share, retweet.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'll-
tag you guys.
We're
in all
tagging you
this.
guys. We're hyping you up with our
Thank you.
200 fans.
thank
So
you.
And that's 200 more than we got. So
We'll definitely be
I
like
want 'em.
promoting this on ours as well, so
What the
people
what?
can because
What
I
the
mean
what?
You got it.
I love that you guys just cover anything pop culture related.
Yes.
It's just very cool, and I feel like there's something everyone can enjoy.
One day,
Mhm.
I really want to feel led to do what y'all are doing with Teen Wolf, but with community and doing episode by episode.
That
type
would be
thing.
amazing.
So,
Yes.
Do it.
so that's a
Yes.
dream one day.
And
down the line.
then you'd have to take a gap year, and then you could come back to it.
Absolutely, yes, of course. So
6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons.
6 seasons in a movie.
Look, I'm catching on.
You are.
You belong now.
You're streets ahead at this point.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, next week on our episode, we are going to be discussing the MCU movie Phase 4 lineup that was announced last week, and just giving our reactions on each of the announced movies that are coming out.
That's right.
And we're very excited about that because the week after that, we're doing our Guardians of the Galaxy 2 rewatch
Yes.
with a friend of the show, Hunter Batten.
Yep.
So thank y'all again for joining
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's been so much
Yeah,
fun.
this was
We've
so much
loved
fun.
it.
So much
We are
fun.
now best friends. Read the fine print in the contract. Just
Yeah.
so until next time, listeners, stay as cool as the other side of the pillow. We'll see you next week. What Luck Podcast. 6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah.
Pop, pop.